Hello everyone and welcome to VMLogix LabManager demo series. My name is Jacob Ben David. I'm Director of Technical Services here at VMLogix. And today I'm going to show you how to use LabManager to user management interface as well as how to share resources within LabManager. So all the previous demos, you noticed that I was logging in as administrator. Of course, accessing as administrator provides me with full access to all the interface and options in LabManager, and you would not want to give users ability to access the lab management or the manage section of LabManager, which includes very important and critical sections of the product which only focus for administrators. So today, we're going to create a new user. So you can see LabManager ships with a default admin. The password was defined when we log in, and this is how you change it. And before we start creating a user, let's review the other components of the user management. So we have the basic unit, which is the user. And of course, user can be a part of one or multiple teams. Teams are very important in LabManager. They are the resources used to share jobs or other resources in lab. So if you want to share a job, a configuration, a script, or any other resource and object in LabManager, you need to create teams and share them with the group of users within that team. And then if you noticed, each user is consisted of two settings, user roles and user personas. Let's start with user roles. User role is a checkbox system where you can create your own role. Our product ships with 3 sample roles, and their definition of what kind of management capabilities the user will have within LabManager. So example, if you want the user to be able to create configuration, you check the box configuration management. If you want them to be able to create machine templates, you check the box machine templates management and so forth. However, checking these options will not grant the user with access to the machine templates page or other pages you enable. That is controlled under persona. Persona is the user interface control mechanism where, just like user roles, LabManager shipped with 3 sample personas, and you can create as many as personas as you want for each user within the organization, or team of users to be more specific. The user persona provides with fine-grained control on exactly what the user will see and what they can click on when they log in into LabManager. This is a really fine-grained, for example, diving into the active job area, you can select which column will be available and what job details will be available, and of course deny or allow the user to have VM power operations that are available via the UI. And the last component of the user management is the authentication servers. Of course, in order to integrate LabManager into your network, easiest way is to tap into your existing user repository that can reside either on Active Directory server, you can see here, or an LDAP server, specifically Open LDAP on Linux. LabManager can tap into multiple instances of the same LDAP or different Active Directory servers. There's no limitation on the sources you can add into LabManager for any different reason. And for example, here you can see in the LDAP, there is an LDAP identifier, and you can tie into a specific group within your Active Directory or LDAP server in order to limit who can access LabManager once you create the user. It's also possible to create user defaults. So instead of you creating the users and assign them defaults such as what role and persona they will be using and which team they will be shared, and you can see that we also allow RAM and VM quota definitions. So users will not be over exceeding their resources or abusing the system and grabbing more and more resources that they should have. So you can define all that in user defaults, and please check our documentation on how to define that, or watch our channel in the future. We're probably going to upload a new video showing you how to define the entire process. But in today's session, I'm going to create a simple user and create a personal persona and a role and quota, and then I'm going to log with this user and show you the entire process from this user perspective. So let's start the process by creating a new team for this user. This team is going to be a developer, so I'll start by creating a development team. team, and the owner will be the administrator, and saving will create and add a new development team into my team listing. And I'm going to create a sample dev role, and very simple, and I just created it. And now I'm going to create and edit my dev role to allow this user a very specific options. I want him to be able to create configurations, and that's it, nothing else. But I also want to be able to share configuration with other team. Instead, he wants, in cases where he wants to share his live environment or saved configurations with other users or teams in LabManager. And for this, I'm done, and I just created my dev role. And now I'm going to create a persona for this user. And again, I'm going to call it dev persona. Save it. And I just created my dev persona. I'm going to edit it and apply exactly the settings I want the user to be accessed. So I want users to have the left pane. That's good with me. Also have the home page. And you can see I can define exactly which home page he will be able to see. I'm good with everything, so I'm going to enable everything under the home. And again, my profile, where the users can see his quota and other notifications. I allow all notification to be sent to this user. And I want him to be able to access all the workspaces except for the pending. This is the queue, so I don't want him to see the pending screen. And all I need to do now is save, and I just created my persona with the specific settings I defined. Oh, and I forgot to enable configuration, which is the most important area of this user. This is where you're going to create his own configuration and deploy them. So now I'm going to go ahead and create the user. This is going to be a local user. I'm not linked into any external interface such as Active Directory or LDAP. So I'm going to call it user. It's going to be very basic and user test. And I can use as email if I had email, but I don't have an SMTP configured to the server, so it's not going to do anything. And I'm going to define a password. And of course, LabManager monitors the password as you type and displays the string. You can define if weak passwords are allowed or not. And then all I need to do is define the role persona. I'm going to allow assign the dev role and the dev persona. And I'm going to assign him to both teams, all users and development team. Because sometimes you always want to have all users assigned to all users in case if you want to send messages to all users regardless of their team membership. And when it comes to RAM quota, I'm going to give him around 10 gig of RAM usage on the system and up to 10 VMs. That will be my quota for this user. Once you save it, you can look at and add advanced options for this user. For example, by default, user is a user, but you can change it to admin, and you can select what will be the first login page of the user. I'm going to leave it under home. And all I need to do now is log out and log in as user. And as you can see here, the user interface is different from administrators. I have my workspace, I have no running jobs, and if I go to configurations, I have no configurations. Let me try to create configuration. You'll note something very unique. So I don't have control on the networking, okay, but also I don't have any ability to select machine templates. This is because we do not allow this user any capabilities to edit or create jobs within the persona, and I'll show you that once we switch to the persona. So again, this was a very simple video showing you how to create users in LabManager, and of course I can switch again to the admin, showing you remind you how the UI looks from this perspective. And in the next video, the second part of this demo will show you how I can now create and share resources between the LabManager user and other teams in LabManager. So stay tuned and watch our next video for more information on sharing resources within LabManager.